talked last week about finding that identity. What did you learn? Anything that gets you guys closer to that identity you want to be, or?
Yeah, what I learned is we have a resilient football team that has no quit, continues to fight. I also learned that we got to do a better job across the board when it comes to coaches and players of continue to find ways to get more clarity, to demand more from a detail standpoint, and cut down and eliminate the self-inflicted wounds. We talk about the turnovers, the penalties. There was a lot of progress when it comes to being a lot more efficient in the run game and getting that going, which is part of who we want to be identity-wise. Also made progress when it comes to third down, as far as being very efficient with that. I think we were five of our first 6 conversions. I think we were 50% overall for the day, which is really good. And then red zone scoring-wise, we were 3 or 4 touchdowns with 1 field goal right before the half. So that's steps in the right direction. But one of the things I mentioned to the entire group, on Monday was like not confusing, movement but progress. That, we are making some strides, but still not good enough. Haven't found a way to be able to win football games. Trying to string together when it comes to us being more consistent, right, day in and day out from an operation standpoint to give us those results.
And the pre-snap penalty, Frank talked about that. I didn't count how many were on the offense versus the defense, but
Yeah.
do you feel like that's still an issue?
Yeah, I think all penalties are issues. I think anytime we do things that work against us, that's always a problem. So addressing that, but also the overall, any penalty we have, any self-inflicted wound, again, it's an imperfect game. Like, life is not perfect. So just trying to do a really good job of demanding excellence from our guys and being locked in, being detailed to cut those mistakes out.
With the Dolphins having such a high-powered offense, how important is it for you guys this week in particular, because they put up so many yards, so many points?
Yeah.
How important, how critical is it for you guys to get off to a fast start against the Dolphins this week?
Yeah, I would say it's the same for us every week. I think it's important for us to do a great job of playing team football when it comes to us possessing the football, being efficient, moving it effectively, and ending every position with a kick. Obviously, preferably want to end up scoring touchdowns, kicking extra points, our field goals, worst case scenario, punting the football and putting our defense in a good spot to be able to compete on that side of the ball. But I think always starting fast is the forefront of our minds, while always being efficient and finding ways to create explosives.
Following that, is it maybe even, it's always critical to put points and end it with a kick, but with this week, are you guys almost as important as the defense in maintaining long, sustained drives, chewing up the clock, and keeping that offense on the sidelines?
Well, I think right now we're one of the top teams in the league when it comes to possessing the football and, sustaining long drives. So I think it's probably our normal operation, our normal procedure when it comes to that. But I think it's, again, about being able to be efficient, maximize our opportunities. And, again, we all have specific roles, right, offense, defense, and special teams. But how we gel together to try to find a way to win football competitively is our overall goal.
Thomas, McDaniel was talking yesterday, and he said something along the lines of Bryce throws a real catchable ball, lends itself to yards after the catch.
Yep.
What does that mean, and where does that show up?
Yeah, so I think being able to throw a catchable ball means understanding who you're throwing to, the timing and spacing when it comes to underneath routes, our deeper throws, but also leading receivers from an angle standpoint so they can have catch and run opportunities, which is going to be huge for us every week, but also you talk about the Dolphins defense, right, as far as how they play their vision overlap defense, playing, catching routes from deep to short. They start, for the most part, every coverage series in a shell structure. They kind of rotate down a single high, post snaps. So having opportunities for us to distribute the football effectively, but also give our guys an opportunity to catch a run and exploit those spaces in the defense.
Do you think that that's why he and Thielen are having the chemistry that they're having as opposed to him and the other receivers? Because I guess with Adams' experience, he's able to get to where he's supposed to be, even if being bumped off the route or rerouted. Do you think that kind of plays a part?
I think it definitely plays a part, but I think also the position that Adam plays, being in the slot versus the outside lane receiver, this gives him more opportunity to catch more balls across the middle. Most times when you play in the slot, you're not playing against, not disrespecting nickels, but the corners on the outside, but also from a spacing standpoint, it kind of replaces what, in older days, tight ends used to be kind of right in the middle, catching a lot of balls. And, of course, Adam's doing a great job of winning when it comes to separating, but also he's a super detailed guy. As you mentioned before, from an experience standpoint, does a really good job of getting open.
Thomas, there are a lot of really good communicators on your offensive staff.
Yeah.
But we talked to Frank about kind of limiting the language kind of pre-snap and working with that wristband.
Yep.
How important is it to know when how important is it to have brevity kind of in the huddle pre-snap and knowing when to kind of reel it back with all the language?
Yeah, man, to me, I think it's a week-to-week thing when it comes to us understanding where we kind of improve offensively, but also what to correct. And simplifying things, not just for the quarterback, but also all of us in general, gives us a better opportunity to be able to execute on a high level. So I think it's a week-to-week conversation trying to continue to improve and find ways to put us in the best spot to be successful. So it's an ongoing process for us as we reach our goals.
Whose idea was the wristband for Bryce? Was that right before the Minnesota game?
It was.
So whose idea was that, and how have you seen that improve things?
It was a collective decision when it comes to us communicating with him, but also us talking from a staff standpoint about finding ways to limit some of that verbiage you talked about from a pre-snap standpoint. And it's a lot easier to be able to communicate a wristband number versus an entire play call when it comes to having substitutions, guys coming out of the game. So it was a collective. You had a second part of your question. I missed that second part.
I just wanted to know, have you seen much difference since?
Yeah, I think it's definitely been an improvement when it comes to the efficiency when it comes to being in and out of the huddle, but also solid communication as well.
Thomas, we've talked a lot and still talking a lot about pre-snap and operational stuff.
Yep.
How would you assess how Bryce is actually throwing it in terms of what have been a lot of tight windows?
I think it was really well. I think
Yeah.
one of the positive things about him from a evaluation standpoint was his brain, how he processed, but also the timing when the ball comes out. We mentioned before earlier when it comes to throwing a catchable ball placement-wise, he's super accurate when it comes to that. So that's a big part of us having success in the passing game.
You guys obviously had film on LaVisca from college and obviously his time with Jacksonville and here.
Yeah.
And then you had the offseason program. But I'm curious, what have you learned about his game or maybe his skill set that once he got into contact over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, to me, he just plays ball. I think just when it comes to evaluating his tape before, he's probably the most effective guy we have on offense when it comes to creating for himself. We talk about being able to, create explosives, break tackles, make guys miss. He's super talented when it comes to that. So he's trying to find as many ways as possible to hone in on a specific role, move him around. He's kind of a positionless player. We play him at all three spots, receiver-wise, plus tailback as well. So very versatile guy for us.
Coach, how is Chandler responding to the stinger? And second, how do you assess his growth as a rookie starter this far?
Responding positive. It's obviously great to be able to see everything work out for him. It's obviously a very scary moment for anytime players go down, but that moment in particular. But I think he's progressing well week in and week out, learning from every opportunity he gets. So trending in the right direction.
Expect him to play this Sunday?
I would take it day by day.
What does your offensive line group look like this week if Chandler's unable to go?
Yeah, so again, we're kind of just having a rotation and mixing some guys in from a competition standpoint and try to figure out who gives us the best continuity from all five guys. So it's a day-to-day process.
How much are you using Tariq in practice right now at the running back spot? I know he's using a returner, but have you started blending him in there so he could do two roles when you get into ready to play him in the game?
And I would say right now he's going to be utilized for the most part when it comes to our look squad from a standpoint of giving our defense a look. So he's all over the field. So in a good way.
Yeah, I have another one. Thomas, what would you say, do you see any similarities in Bryce's game with Tua's?
I'll be honest, I don't watch Tua enough to make comparisons, and I'm not a big comparison guy in general. I think it becomes natural in this game to compare apples to apples, but I try to separate guys when it comes to what they do well, what they don't do well. But I couldn't, give you an accurate answer when it comes to those two. I've obviously watched Bryce a whole lot more than I watched Tua.
Was there a play over the last couple of weeks that you would point to as like kind of that epitomizes Bryce's progression to this point?
Yeah, again, I don't think it's just one play. I think there's moments throughout the entire game. I think his overall focus, how he bounced back from some of the issues we had last game, is a steady approach towards being positive, encouraging the group, and continue to just shoot bullets from a game day standpoint. I thought it was very impressive. And obviously the fourth and 1 conversion we had at the end of the game to Adam was a super accurate ball, great timing, great ball placement. Obviously a really big time play for Adam as well to score a touchdown there. So it's many moments, not just one play in my mind.
Given your background with tight ends, I'm just curious, what's your evaluation of that group through 5 weeks?
Yeah, I think what I've said in previous weeks when it comes to those guys being versatile, there's a lot of topics of conversation when it comes to touches overall. But again, that's a very versatile group when it comes to what those guys provide for us to be effective offensively. So I think trying to continue to find ways to mix and match those guys based on their skill set to give us the best opportunity to be successful.
With wide receivers, sometimes there's routes that only one wide receiver would run. Is that kind of similar in the tight end room where you have certain plays that you think are really, maybe that's a Hurst play or that's an Ian play from a route running standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. I think anytime you start to design an offense, design plays, it's always about people before it is concepts, like who can do what and also who can't do certain things. So I think when it comes to us trying to find ways to find matchups, that's the first thing we think about. But also when we mix in no huddle, they have to all be able to learn and run everything when it comes to being on the ball and kind of be effective with that.